Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Gold River Committee of the Whole meeting. And I'll just start off our meeting with our land acknowledgement that this meeting is taking place on the historical, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Mawachit First Nations. Call the meeting to order. Introduction of late items. Administrator, do you have any late items for agenda?
No, I don't, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. Council, late items for agenda. Councilor Pickard.
Thank you, the chair. I'm just wondering, are we able to add in camera on committee of the whole? Or no? Okay.
No, regular.
No
meeting.
late items next week. Thank
I
you.
knew you to be asking that too, and I researched it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to introduce a late item. I'd like to introduce a presentation from John Frame from Gold River Aqua Farms, and to take place after we do the approval of the agenda and before administrative reports. So we can get John in and out of here quick, but he's got, I think, a really important update that he wants to provide to the community, and welcome the opportunity. Mr. Ray.
Just to clarify, you could add an in-camera item, but it would have, there's no decisions that can come out of it because it's not a regular council meeting.
Okay, we can go back and revisit that if you want to talk about it. Can I go to approval agenda? And move that the agenda be adopted as presented. You can remove it. Councillor Fawcett, second by Councillor Pickard. Any discussion? Call for the question. We got it. So you are up there, Councillor Frame. Just to let you know, Councillor Frame was the fellow I'd be looking up here a long time ago when I was sitting over there where Administrator Roy is. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, well, as you all know, you're big supporters of ours. We've been working at this project for well over 3 years, trying to get approvals and licensing. And we have secured our licensing after 3 years. And that's all part of the reason why this is taking so long, is because we had money, we've had investors, couldn't get licensing, money needs to work. So it had moved on. So we were constantly looking for people to invest in our project.
Excellent.
And we finally have made some movement. We've talked to the owners of the mill site, and they've been very good to us. They're actually, I think, somewhat involved. I don't know by how much, but yeah, so very exciting times.
Yes.
We are lobbying the government, and that's why the petition is out, because we need the support from the government so we could get the private equity investors interested in the project. They're on the sidelines right now, and they're waiting to jump in. And one of the groups is called Wild Salmon First.
Yeah, I heard of them.
Yeah, and they're made up of lodge owners, and there's a huge tugboat company. I'm not sure if it's Seaspan or what the name of it is, but also the Ritchie brothers, auction people, and there's a few big hitters that are involved in this project. So it seems to all fit for us right now, because the government seems to have a few bucks that they're starting to invest in BC, and with all the stuff that's happening across Canada, where the approvals hopefully are taking a little less time to get pushed through. So we wanted this thing signed up, ready to go for to get going. So that's why the petition all come about. We just needed lots of names on it, so we could have a bit of hope to go with the government with. And we do have a meeting with the government tomorrow.
Excellent. What government, federal or provincial?
Provincial.
Okay.
But we also want federal support too. So that's why the petition is important. So why I'm here today is to answer some of your questions, I guess. If you got any questions, what I can answer, and your support by signing the petition from mayor and council will carry a lot more clout than just the individuals signing it. So that's where we're at.
Can I start off with the questions, you guys, if you indulge me? Probably the most important one, John, is how do we go about, signing the petition?
I
I-
brought
I
my
s-
granddaughter here to get you.
To give us that information? Perfect. We'd love to hear from her because, I'm fully supportive of, your business and, and as a Mayor of Gold River, I've signed off in support of, aquaculture in this community. And, I would have no hesitation in supporting your business now and going forward. So, just tell me how I do it and, I'll be signing my name to it tonight if I can.
Perfect. Yeah, and
Councilor Pickard.
Thank you to the chair. And first of all, thank you, John, for coming in, and thanks, Taylor, for coming in to join us in your presentation. And thanks for your patience and all your hard work and just being waiting for licenses and permits. And it's, we're one level of government. As frustrating though for us to watch these different higher levels of government just be in the way
Yes.
of us moving forward as a community, of you guys moving forward. And we've seen these permitting delays hold up all kinds of projects, and some luckily have had some funders that could be patient and flexible, but some, as you've seen with some of your financing and investments, in the business world doesn't work really like that, and people can't wait for funds.
Yes.
So we share, we share the frustration that the government's in the way of this really big economic project. So hopefully this one works out and this kind of next part goes through smoothly. And one thing our mayor and council's been really supportive is of advocating for our businesses. So I think, well, I, for myself, am really supportive of it and I'm proud to sign the petition. And yeah, we have a few tools in our belt that we can do in this, in these seats, right? As
Yep.
you know, and advocacy and from mayor and council and supporting our residents and
also-
businesses is a big thing. So thanks for your effort. Taylor, you should be so proud of your grandpa and his team. They're making a big difference for
we're hoping.
everybody here and for our future and for all the younger generations. So,
Yeah, as a kid, I
Our
seen it
support.
grow here and
yeah.
then I seen the boom, the bust, and hopefully we'll be around long enough to see it boom again. This
Mhm.
community needs it.
Yeah, and then one final thing, we did a letter of support for the Pacifican grant for the funding. Did you guys get any results back or hear about that? Or do
Richard.
we have any
will-
updates?
Richard
Okay.
will
I'll
know
know.
about that.
Okay.
I have no idea whether they did. I remember us working on that, but yeah,
Okay, well, fingers crossed. Thank
yeah,
you.
fingers crossed.
And I know you have lots of hats that you wear in the community. One of the things that you probably have seen too is the council's support for sport fishing industry in Nooka Sound area, because we signed off a letter on the salmon allocation policy that we sent to fisheries ministers, I believe,
Yes,
supporting that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I went to the meeting. There's 14 to 1,500 people at the meeting. It was a very, very good meeting.
Good.
And I'm gonna give them an update at the Rod and Gun meeting tomorrow night on it.
Excellent.
And yeah, so some of the things that really excited me about that, and I never ever thought about it.
What's that, John?
Was salmon. They said if they put recreational fishing last, that will completely destroy the stocks. And I'm thinking, what are you saying? And this was Jesse from the Wildlife Federation did an awesome speech, and he pointed out that all our licensing that we buy, salmon tags, licensing, and even the hunters buy hunting licenses and everything else. That supports not only the hatcheries, but the volunteer people do salmon enhancement, recreation, that doing stream work, and
Yeah.
they do all the volunteer work throughout fisheries. And if you can't fish, who's gonna do that work?
So
And,
true.
and there goes our fish, right? So,
Thinking all the reports that I've read, John, is that the best bang for our buck in the aquaculture business is sport fishing, because per pound, the most money being generated for the economy for all the different streams is through sports fishing. You get the most bang for buck. My mom used to always tease my father that after we went up and did our fishing in the ocean that we did, that and we brought our fish back, that she was really pleased that we got fish that cost $600 a pound. when she could buy it at the store for 3. But that was the cost of all the boats and the licenses and the tackle and, you know, some of the other stuff that we used to do out there when we're fishing. But, yeah, best
Yeah.
bang for the buck, John, in terms of return on every dollar.
Well, that's why I'm super excited about this group that is showing some interest in our project, and that's the Wild Salmon First. And they, not only do they want to prove that this system will work on land and, you know, be viable, like it's, but also they want to do some enhancement.
Yeah, I think they're big on restoration work
Yeah.
too and habitats for
Yeah,
fish.
they're
and-
big on it all, so
Yeah.
super excited to have them looking at our project, like it's just,
Yeah, that's awesome,
yeah,
considering that you might be considered the competition.
right.
Counselor Fickard. Oh, sorry. My
You
apologies.
can go
I was
first if
looking-
you want.
Go ahead, Counselor Raymar. We got some balance.
Yeah, I guess my big question here would be, how does council sign this petition? Or is it kind of more in the form of a letter of support, or does council scan the QR code, or like, what are you kind of looking for out of all of this?
Yeah, I brought my granddaughter, she can do it 3 or 4 different ways for you, so she'll just show you how to do it. And it would be, I think it would go a longer way to, you know, to sign it as mayor and council. And
Okay.
then individually, I know it has been signed by a couple of you already, so.
I
So,
guess as
Go
a
ahead.
follow-up, just because this is a committee of the whole, would a week from now be okay? Because procedurally, I think we can't make that decision.
I think we can have you signed up in the next 5 minutes,
if we did it individually.
if you did it individually. And then the letter can follow, I think, because they want to take it with them midweek, like this thing is moving quick, so.
So we could
And I-
sign it as citizens of the Village of Gold River in one capacity, John, and have a letter from the council
Yeah.
to you probably next week. Don't
Yeah.
know, does that work for you? Does that give you a better bang for the buck or?
Even signing it as,
Because you brought your
Mayor, yeah.
granddaughter all the way down here, and if you bring her down here, we don't put her to work, she's gonna, you're gonna pay the price, buddy.
Yeah.
So how would you, I'll hear from your granddaughter, how she thinks it best be
Yeah.
served, but you know, I think.
That part of
collectively-
it, well, she knows. I'm old school yet, I'm learning.
Yeah, because individually, we all can, you know, we can all make our own choice, right? But collectively, as a council representing the Village of Gold River, we have to go through the process and we have to go through voting on it and all that, so
Right.
that, make sure that it's, you know, endorsed in a legal document, but, we could give you the individual stuff probably tonight if that helps.
That would help.
Yeah, and then, if the council's in agreement next meeting to support it, I guess you make a request or something, we can make up a letter of support. If council was to approve it.
Mhm.
Because I don't think we do that in committee of the whole meetings. Okay, would that work for you, John?
That absolutely.
You gonna let your granddaughter speak or are we gonna have to listen to you for the rest of the night?
No, I'm gonna let. I'm on here. You're okay.
Yeah, so I believe that the sheet that was passed out by my grandfather has a QR code on it that is scannable by camera. If easier, I could also forward the link over via email. Whatever is kind of the preferred method of receiving that.
Okay, and then it'll just take us to a site and we just sign?
Absolutely. First name, last name, and email is required, and it's pretty simple. Takes less than a minute.
Okay, terrific. I can do that when I get home. Oh, you might.
Thank you.
Yeah. My granddaughter will show me how to do it.
Yeah, I just got on Facebook yesterday and get all my contacts and my contacts shared and it just went around and bang, yeah.
Counselors, any other questions for our presenters? Nope, seeing none. Thank you very much. Councillor Frame for coming in and sharing with us. It's really exciting news and at the time where we are in our history right now, I think Gold River could really use that kind of how can I say it, excitement. And I always wanted, like you, I share your sentiment. I always wanted to be around for the boom because I never got to see the boom. All I got to see was the bust. And I'd love to be here to see this place just go boom. But-
Well, when I come here that, you know, ice arenas being built, swimming pools, well, that was later, I was working in the mill then, but
Yeah.
it was pretty cool as a kid to see, it just grow and grow and grow, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I envy you that experience. All I seen was this part of it.
And
Looking
there's so much that was here and it's gone and, you know, like,
Well, I remember, John, back in the days, back in 99, when they said, just, you're done, turn the lights out, we're finished. And I seen a resolve within the community, a determination that that wasn't going to be our future, and I believed in it. I'm still here, I think partly because of that, because I seen a spirit in the people of Gold River that said, it's not going to happen. Gold River's not going to die. We're going to maintain what we've got, and we're going to recover, renew, and grow. And I still have faith in that, still believe in that. It's just whether I'm going to be around to see it. Maybe it's my daughter or my granddaughters, but I know it's going to happen. We're just too good a place for this not to happen. So I'm
Your
glad
worship.
that somebody like you, who's been invested in our community for such a long time and is such a pillar in our community, is part of that because
Your
it
worship.
gives me space.
Just want to point out, anybody who's listening online or will watch this recording is probably only hearing half of a conversation
Why is that?
because Mr. Frame is not on a microphone.
Oh, okay, Mr. Frame, you'd have to sit behind there, but. Okay, if, did you go back to your microphone again? Because I think there might be a few other questions there. John, did you want to go back and just speak into the mic? Because I can hear you, but the administrator's correct. Nobody else can. Terrific. Any other things that you want to ask, John, before we wrap up? Oh, good. I think,
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that.
Councillor
And
Pickard.
not a question, we just wanted to say thanks for all your work on the aqua farm stuff and also the advocacy for the sport fishers and rec fishers and our town, our culture, our fishing and our kids and traditions. So it means a lot that you guys, I was in touch with your wife a bit with communications for the town hall, but it means a lot you guys went and are advocating for that because it's really important also for Gold River in its own way. And you have a good point about all the restoration and conservation stuff and there's such good work being done around Gold River. And all that, those groups are rec fishers, you know,
Yeah.
everybody's putting back and
Yeah.
volunteering and doing the time and restoration and effort because we're passionate about the area and fishing and want to kind of ensure that that's there. So kind of all goes together. So thanks for being a representative there for all the residents and businesses that depend on it.
I did hear, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen anything posted yet, but they were talking at that meeting that there could possibly be a town hall with Aaron Gunn on February 21st in the Comox Valley, and then again on the 27th or 28th in Campbell River. But I haven't seen, I've been watching online to see if it's been, but haven't seen anything yet.
We're, our government, as you know, we did a letter of support just advocating for the lodges and the industry and our residents and traditions and kind of how important that is for Gold River. And we've also talked to MLA Kindy and MP Gunn and sent them our letter. They know where Gold River, what that means for us, and also share the importance of the advocacy for the allocation policy to be fair and, you know, not put rec fishers last. So
Right,
they're aware of it, but yeah, we'll watch for that.
good.
Councillor Fossen.
Thank you through the chair. And Mr. Frame, I just wanted to say thank you for coming tonight. And this is, it is exciting news. I did want to know if you could answer just a couple of questions. Maybe it's too early too, but is there any idea of how many possible employees would be hired for the building and then the running of the farm at this time?
I'm not sure for how many employees. They are talking to a contractor that was gonna get it shovel ready, and they've got some bids and everything on that. So I'm not sure how many, you know, like those big machines move a lot of stuff now, so I'm not sure how many jobs there. But when we're up and running, they're talking 50 to 60 jobs on the site. And later, if we get processing, which they I've always talked about doing processing. That's where the bigger jobs come in, 100+.
This is wonderful. And just a follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
John, do you have an estimated, how do I say this? How much money are you needing of investment to actually be shovel ready, if that's known at this time?
I'm not sure, it's probably, this is just
Just
what I'm
ballpark.
getting third hand or whatever, but it's probably between $1 and $2 million to get it shovel ready.
Okay, well, thank you very much, sir.
Question for the CAO procedurally, for John, does he need to bring a letter requesting this letter of support for the next council meeting, sir, or how do we go about that?
If you could provide. Councilor Paulson, do you turn off your-
Thank you.
If you can provide a draft of what he'd like to see in a letter of support, it would be helpful.
Does that work for you, John?
Yeah.
Terrific.
The next council meeting, hopefully I can bring the team and you can get better, real numbers. Like I said, it's just what I've been told and what's actually happening is a
Terrific.
little different. It's moving so quick. They're getting new information every day. So
Well,
Yeah.
I know as a council and community, we appreciate you, giving us this preview.
yes,
It's very exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it is exciting.
Any other question, counselors, for Mr. Frame? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming in, John. Appreciate that. And if you want to stick around for the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to.
We've got other meetings to get to. I did my share. I sat in that chair.
We've got an extra chair here for you if you like.
Thanks for having.
I'll just say goodbye to you, John. Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Do
Good
we
job.
need a card from anybody? Okay.
I don't need a card. I know where to find you. I just
Yeah.
have to. go
No,
down
I
the
meant
hall
for
first.
her to send information. Or
I figured out the.
You got the code on
Okay.
right?
Ever, if they do
Yeah.
want to write that letter, I can send them the kind of criteria for that letter, based on the information proposals we sent out.
Okay. Yeah, Taylor's been working with her too. So.
More on like the front. So if there is a direct contact that I can send over what we require for the letter, maybe.
Awesome. Nicole. M. Roy at. M. Goldriver.ca. Questions, complaints. Funding.
Requests.
Requests, yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks for having us.
Evening, folks. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Taylor. Bye, John.
Bye.
On to administrative reports. Reason we're here this evening, granted aid policy, moved that the administration update the draft grant and aid policy based on the information provided by council and bring back to a future regular council meeting. Who care to move it? Councillor Waymire, second Councillor Pickard. And discussion, who'd like to lead us off? No one? Okay, this will be a short meeting. Seeing none, call for the. I'll start us off just to get the ball rolling. I had an opportunity to meet with the administrator and go over it a bit today too. And I complimented him on capturing what we needed, I think, in terms of providing clarity in the revised draft policy. It makes it kind of really easy to understand and really clear what the intentions are for council. And I supported the entire, not the entire document, the document nearly in its full entirety. There was one item that I did want to pose for amendment, and it's number 6, and it had to do with the maximum amount for the grant. Like the way that we have it structured is like there's $10,000 for the cap on the grants and aid, and I was supportive of that. I thought that fell in line with our whole philosophy of being financially responsible and having that cap that we've had basically for the last 4 years. I think you could probably argue, if you look at inflation, that that cap's gone down, because I think cap's probably been 3 or 4% every year. So it's probably even less than the 10, but it does fall in with the rest of the spirit, I think, of the budgeting that we did for the 5-year financial report and the project report. I do support that very important event that we have every year that embodies Gold River, which is Gold River Days, and that $5,000 toward it, and how we've got it formulated right now in terms of having groups come in and we do the financial part if we can't get a group to overtake the whole thing and do the normal grant and application process. So I supported that. But the one thing that I questioned was having $1,000 as a maximum for an application. I thought that really restricted council with the other $5,000 that was, there. And I wanted to give them the greatest discretion in making determination on how they want to give that money out. So it could be one group that we wanted to give the money to for $5,000, or two groups for $2,500, or three groups. But if we just restrict it to 1,000, that means that you're stuck with 5 or more applications if they're less than 1,000. And I prefer to have the flexibility just to say that if we want to go with 5, we take the 5. If we want to go with the 2 applications for 3,000, 2,000, we can. It just gives council a bit more scope rather than locking us into something that's 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Okay. So the only amendment that I would propose, from my perspective, is that I'd like to see that 1,000 change to 5,000. Other than that, I think that the administrator and staff should be complimented on updating that policy so that it reflects what council and community would be more comfortable with. Any other comments? Concerns? Did you want to stay on this theme of the $5,000 one and see if it has universal support, or? Because I guess we could vote on it to see whether or not you wanted to amend it. Do we have to make an amendment to this?
Basically, it's providing information back to what changes you want to see in it. is
Yeah,
what we'll
so we
talk
don't
about.
have to do amendment after amendment like that. Okay, that's what I thought. Councilor Rimmer.
Yeah, love your points. That was one thing that kind of stood out to me and was one thing I was kind of wrestling with, like, how is this going to work? And frankly, I think it's kind of more council's discretion year to year to, look at what's going to be the most pertinent for the community. So I think it's, very logical to have a $5,000 cap, given that's the $5,000 that's left over after Gold River Days. Yeah, so I have no issues with amending that number 7, I think it was, from 1,000 to 5,000.
6, I believe it was. Thank you, Councilor Rimmer. Councilor Foss and Councilor Pickard, are you supportive of the amendment I'm proposing, or would you like to comment on it? Councilor Pickard?
Thank you, and I'm supportive of the amendment. I think it gives more discretion, and just if a group comes with a proposal that's bigger than 1,000, it gives us all of us more flexibility to look at that and assess it case by case. And so for that, I'm supportive.
Thank you. Councilor Fosson?
Yes, to the chair. Yes, I'm in support of the amendment that you propose.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other revisions, amendments, comments that council wishes to make on this document? Councilor Pickard?
Thank you, through the chair. And just one thing I thought maybe we could talk about or see what's the best for us looking at groups, and for groups applying, is the application deadline date of December 15th. And if we think it'd be better to modify that to have it earlier so we can have applications in and look at them for the year, or not, if that's kind of the best way.
I read a lot of reports today, and one of the reports I reread a couple of times was the administrator's report here. And I know there was some reference to that very question, that if we were considering something that would be irrelevant, the date would be irrelevant. So I can't really remember the context now, because For some, it's escaping me, but could you refresh me, CEO Roy? Just, is that really is the date change relevant if we have a $10,000, if we're not changing the amount, the $10,000 amount and we're going?
Your worship, as part of some of the input that we had when this was given to administration to update was trying to have a deadline established so that the groups could we could deal with all the applications at once. So I threw in December 15th on here,
I've seen that.
but as in the report I mentioned though, if we go with an earlier date in in the year, and as part of the budgeting process, then it gives council some discretion if they feel there's sufficient input, interest coming in for the coming year to increase the budget if council so wishes, then you'd want an earlier date.
Yeah,
So
from a
then we're looking more like a September date then to try and align with the budget process. Otherwise, I think that's probably the only limitation is if you're wanting to change that threshold of 10, because once we set our budget, we really don't have that luxury. So
It's council's pleasure, September or December. Just to clarify a little bit more, what's in administratively looking at the creation of our budget and our financial plan, what works works best for administration?
for administration, having those discussions starting in September is better. That's because then by the past couple of years, as you are aware, October, we start having the discussions. So by that time, the council will have had an opportunity to make some decisions or determine if there's a need to adjust the budget upwards on a one-time basis. Say there's a special event like the 60th or something like that that comes up where council will want to maybe put in a bit additional funding. Right now, though, we do have a fund set aside that will fund the 10,000 on an annual basis without having to go through the taxpayer on an annual basis for that, based on the interest revenue from some money that were set aside to generate that revenue. So other than that, I think that's the only really pertinent date that maybe be consideration if it's going to be an impact on the budget.
Thank you, sir. That's eliminating because it kind of falls in with the theme that we're talking about earlier, giving council the widest discretion possible when making decisions. And if you saying that if we do it in September and we wanted to have a higher ceiling than 10,000 because there's an extraordinary event that was on and we want to support it, then it'd be better to do that with the budget process. And that we could do that, and that we would be looking at that as we went along through the budget process. Does it create inconvenience for people that are making applications for grants?
I think that the challenge will be that maybe some of the groups aren't even in that mindset at that time frame. Like, for example, the ball tournament, it might be earlier than they're even thinking. So that there'll be the downside. Some of these groups, it would involve more planning sooner to determine if they're moving forward or what their needs are going to be. So that's the downside of having it too early. December 15th might be too early for some of those groups, but maybe it could be a February date. Like, it really is what council feels is going to be best for our community.
Yeah, because when I look at the budget process, even though we started in the fall now, instead of doing it in the winter and spring, December 15th we're still in the budget process. We wouldn't have final reading. We'd probably have third at that point anyways. We still wouldn't have adopted the budget at that point. We could still make revisions even if we stayed with the 15th. That's correct.
That's correct, because this year we adopted the budget on the first meeting in January.
Yep.
So it just depends what's going to work for the community moving forward. So
What's your preference, Councillor Pickard? Since you brought it up.
Thank you through the chair. We want to hear from Councillor Waymeyer.
I think he's still dwelling on it himself,
And-
trying to process it.
It's good, all good thoughts and, for groups maybe into the new year, because then they can kind of wrap their heads around what that year looks like for them, but see what Councillor Waymeyer has to say. Thanks.
Councillor Waymer, looks like you've been
Yeah.
elected.
I guess we'll call this a bit of a two-parter. So, I mean, I'm definitely in the same mindset of what's going to be best for the people organizing these events. And September 15th is 2 weeks, 3 weeks after Gold River Days and the ball tournament. And they're going to be resting. And if somebody organizing the ball tournament is also a teacher, that's going to be some sort of a hell week. So, I mean, being able to push it later without completely, handcuffing council to a number on an extraordinary event that may need more money. I think as late as we could push it is best, and I think, I mean, December 31st at midnight would be perfectly fine with me. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. Sure, our CAO isn't going to be looking at his email as the ball drops, but yeah, I think as late as we could push it, and I'm pretty comfortable with the end of December because that's gonna, our budget process is probably not going to be adopted and finished and finalized until, early in 2020 or whatever year it is. Yes, so and as far as, big changes to the budget, increasing $10,000 to $15,000 or whatever it might be, would be hopefully the most minor changes as far as the budget is concerned. So, yeah, late December is my vote. And then part two, maybe it's just my lack of English. Just number 17 says grant and aid applications received after December 17th may not be considered for funding in the following year. I guess my question through the chair to the CAO is that may not be considered a you might not be considered, or is it a you won't be considered?
I believe that comes down to if there's funding left. If there's no funding left, then there would be no ability to consider. I believe we have in here that unallocated funds up to the 10,000 or whatever could still come after the fact, but preference would be dealt with the people who apply by the deadline.
I guess to finish that thought then, yeah, number 17 totally works for me. I want, if you hit the deadline, your, first priority, and then you realize you have something pop up and there's $1,000 still left over. I'm all for it, not being blacked out. It's still available for council's consideration.
Thank you, Councilor Raymar. Councilor Fossil, do you have any thoughts, sir?
Thank you. Thank you to the chair. I like the idea of the proposed date in December. I do agree with Councilor Raymar. I think December 31st would probably be a good date instead of December 15th, if that's what I heard you saying.
As it
But-
exists right now, it's
Yeah.
December 17th in the revised policy.
I do like the idea that we do have a set budget
Yes, sir.
on it. And I do like the idea that first come, first serve is always a good thing too. I do echo some of the concerns though that some of these organizers or people or committees that would be organizing may not be thinking about it at that time. So
Agreed.
I think there'll have to be a little bit extra communication in that regard in some way, shape or form, maybe mail out, whatever, just to make sure the bug is in the ear. But I like the idea too that even if you do get it in late and there's a little bit left over, then you could still receive, whether it's $5 or $1,000 or $2,000. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really good to set it for our budgeting process. Sort of sets the precedent for the coming years. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fossil. Agreement. So does the language as it is in the revised policy, December 15th, and item number 17 and 21, the 31st, those dates work? CAO?
I kind of like the December 15th from an administrative point of view because it gives us time to get the stuff in, prepare it for council to have it in a timely fashion while we're still in the budget process.
Okay.
So that's the only consideration I would have is just giving administration time to pull everything together, prepare the report back to council with the applications.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Pickard.
Thank you. And for the administrator, is the new year, like a deadline in the new year, say January 31st or 15th? Is that too crazy with the budget and stuff? Just to give groups kind of the holidays finish and start the new year, kind of regroup and figure out what they want?
As long as there's no extraordinary event coming up that council may want to consider, that date is workable, because again, if we're just working within the established budget of council, the date's not as critical. It's more as if you want to address additional funding.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. I kind of look at the way it is right now, and I think it's a nice balance. It meets, it helps with the administrative priorities and operations, and it also addresses a critical concern that I have, that organizations are going to be aware and have enough time and not be distracted because it's time of the season in order to get the grant applications in. I think December 15th is a reasonable date to get it in, and it's just before the holidays, and I think it would work for me. I don't have much problem. I think it meets both of the concerns that I heard being raised here this evening. So I guess the first thing is we pretty well talked about it, just talk about 17, and is December 15th the date that you can live with, council, or do you want to make a change? Councilor Pickard?
Thank you. Just one more quick question too. So we'd have the rate sheet, right? It would be the same, like when people are doing their applications, the rate sheets for what they want the next year would be out, is already out, and
If you're referring to the
Change.
recreation one, yes, as we normally do that in September before we open the pool.
I'm good with December the 15th unless there's hard opposition to that. Councilor Wimmer?
Yeah, December 15th is perfectly fine for me. The only reason why I think December 31st might be easier is it's just a little more memorable. You have until the end of the year. But I think that comes down to what Councillor Fossen brought up, is communication. And I mean, I really hope people wouldn't be making a grant and aid application between, December 24th and 31st. So December 15th is perfectly fine for me, as long as, we get that communication, because it's going to be a slightly new process, and getting people on board is going to be, I mean, probably like pulling teeth, as easy as we want to make it. Yeah, December 15th, I'm perfectly fine with. And the fact that, if it is late and it's not an extraordinary thing over $10,000, should be a seamless transition.
Thank you, Councilor Wimmer. Councilor Fossen, are you okay with the 15th?
I'm in concurrence.
Okay. Councilor Pickard? Do you want to be dissenting voice, or do you want to?
no, I support it too. And but I agree also with Councillors Fossen and Waymeyer that communications would be good, especially we know the regular groups that are going to apply. There's kind of a lot of repeat customers for the grant and aid. So as long as we, just make sure that they're aware and that we are doing this process to kind of simplify it and assess all groups at once, and not make it early and not let them know. That I think the communication piece will be big.
Sarah Roy, procedurally, how do we get the revised and updated policy information out to the community? What's our practice as an organization?
We can do a newsletters correspondence that we normally do, where we send it out into all the mailboxes.
Yep.
We put it on our website and push it out through social media at the same time.
I think that would be adequate. I'd like to mail it. Revisiting, I guess it goes without saying, but I just want to revisit number 21 to make sure everybody's still happy with December 31st. I think it just falls right in. I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that everybody's good with it. I'm good with it. Yeah. Perfect. Any other discussion that council wishes to have on the revised grant aid policy? Any other questions that you'd like to direct to the administrator? Comments? Again, I'll just, Councilor Mercer.
Um, I don't know if it tickles your fancy, but I'm just looking at the bullet points that our CAO has given us for consideration. What is it, 6 of them? Are these, 6 questions we want to knock off one by one and make sure we're all in, a degree of agreement that these are, we've addressed these questions?
Council, do you wish to call for the question now, or do you want to go bullet by bullet and deal with each one of them? I've gone through all the bullets by bullets, so I don't need to do it again, but I want to make sure council is.
If
reviewed
your
that
worship
completely.
would permit, I would, administration would like to at least get some guidance on those, just to clarify that we haven't missed anything.
Okay, basic. Let's start off with the first bullet then. I can go through bullet by bullet if you like, and we can have a conversation about each one. First bullet that I have down here, if I'm following the bouncing ball, is does council want to require that the applicant is a registered society or nonprofit?
Just to fill council in, technically, I believe that's already our policy that they're supposed to be. In practice, that is not what we've been doing. For example, the ball tournament.
I've seen that in the old policy that you did have it as registered nonprofit, but you also had a provision in there saying that there was recognizable organizations, the community that were credible, that could come up with certain criteria, even if they were nonprofit or not registered, they'd also be allowed consideration for grant and aids under our existing policy.
But that there was never any real framework around what that means and how that would look. A lot of other communities do restrict it just to registered societies. And again, administration is not saying that's a direction, but this is a good time to have the discussion to make sure we're in agreement and that we all understand what the expectation is.
So if we did, just for my understanding, if we did require it to be a registered society or nonprofit, that would exclude our ability to have a nonprofit or one that's not registered, such as the folks that are helping us with Gold River Days, and we do the financing. That wouldn't be permissible then, because they wouldn't be considered part of the policy anymore, because they're not a nonprofit or they're not a registered society, just groups of people that have agreed to help out with that particular event in the community. Is that correct?
Gold River Days is a bad example, to be honest, because I've put in something in there to address that
Yeah, I-
anomaly. I think more a realistic would be the ball tournament, because that is separate from Gold River Days.
Yeah, so that they would be excluded then because they don't fall into that criteria.
That's
Thank you,
correct.
sir. I'd like to see, I don't, we'll have discussion, but I wouldn't want to see that happen. So I would say that, does council want to require that the applicant be a registered society or nonprofit? If that's going to restrict us from being able to do what we're doing with the ball club, I wouldn't support that. I would say the registered society nonprofit would be preferable, but we consider other organizations or groups within the community if they meet that kind of, if they're well organized and they can demonstrate certain things. I think like we've seen in the existing policy, I think you have a list of them. Councilor Waymark.
Yeah, I think I want to echo those sentiments. I mean, and again, council will be making decisions on where the money is going. So if Councillor Fawson wants to apply for $1,000 for some new tires, that still would have to be a decision of council. So I do agree that, we don't want to restrict event organizers like the ball tournament. Though the wording of whatever that was, that they're like an organization, but they, fit X amount of criteria does work for me. I guess that's a bit of wordsmithing for a CAO, but I don't think we're going to be like every other or a bunch of other communities that are restricted to just societies and nonprofits.
Thank you, Councilor Waymark. Councilor Pickard.
Thanks, Councilor Waymire and Mayor Lott, and I also agree that Having the group organization incorporated under the Societies Act or charitable organization is a big ask, and it's a small community, and some groups don't have that capacity to do what's required of the Societies Act to keep up year round. So, and the provision in here that says that the organization is unincorporated but well established and demonstrated objectives that are charitable in nature and have established set of working rules and regulations and a bank account. And looking at the past grant and aid applications, say from the ball tournament, they're super detailed and really thorough. And I think as a council, we can use our discretion and history of these organizations and pick where to best support the community with the money, and not requiring being registered as a society or charitable organization. I think is best.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. I can certainly work with that. Councillor Boston, did you want to weigh in, sir? Or you?
I say ditto to Councillor Prickard.
So I'll leave that with you then. You understand the
Yep,
desire
I've
council?
got the desire council, and I appreciate the discussion that was around that.
And the next item that the Minister has as a bullet here, does council wish to discontinue permissive tax exemptions? Before we get into that discussion, I noticed that you had some comments on that or some recommendations for council on that in your report. Could you just share that with us again before we get into our discussion? You talked about wanting to retain permissive tax exemptions for certain reasons because of our existing bylaw and you had some other items listed there too.
If we decide to roll all the permissive tax exemption stuff into the grant and the aid, obviously the budget is insufficient at 10,000.
Yeah.
That's a given right there. Unfortunately, I'm trying to refresh my memory on.
I can actually read it for you if you like, sir.
Oh, there it is.
It says, one area that was considered by administration was a discontinuation of permissive tax exemptions and the use of grant and aid to provide funding. As a result of legislation, the permissive grant process is transparent. The village is required to publish a list of the organization to receive a permissive tax exemption, along with the amount in advance of the passing of the annual bylaw, which is due by October 31st, Community Charter 227. In addition, information is also included in the annual report, which is also a legislative requirement, Community Charter 98, to be based on legislation at the village. Permissive tax exemption policy in the village is still well served with the current practice of granting permissive tax exemptions.
Yes, I think the biggest aspect with that is that transparency. As we are aware of pretty well every year, we do hear comments in the community about some of the organizations that are on there. And so it does show that it is noticed, is viewed, and it is transparent because it is out there. So it does have that benefit, whereas the grant and aid can fly a bit more under the radar because it only happens at the council meeting. There's no public process to advertise it. There's no requirement to advertise it. So that's probably the main difference between the two. I think right now the permissive tax exemption does best for us in being transparent with the community.
Councilor Wimmer.
Yeah, I don't want to touch it. It's, another charity bucket, but I consider it a different bucket completely. So I don't want to make anything more or things less transparent and more confusing, and let's just leave that as it is.
I echo Councilor Wimmer's sentiments. Okay, same Councilor Pickard, do you want to be the dissenting voice or are you going to?
I echo.
I concur.
Y'all, let's keep it more transparent, less confusing. I like having them separate too, because there's the printout, people can see the properties and have kind of full knowledge, and it's more open, and I think the separation is good.
Thank you, Councilor Pickard. No further discussion required on that one, Roy.
Nope, we
You
can
got
go on to the
one.
next one that's kind of ties in with the same
Here's
item.
The next bullet is the group organization receives a permission of tax exemptions should they be eligible for additional grant and aid. Do we have any examples of a group currently that has a permissive tax exemption is also receiving a grant and aid, sir?
Currently, no. Has it happened? Yes.
Has it ever happened to your knowledge as in your role as a CAO for the Village of Gold River?
Yes, Your Worship, that would be the golf course.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Romero.
And I guess also, I believe we did $700 or $900 for the Legion roof. In our term at least. Yeah, I guess I'll jump into this.
Sure.
This is probably the one question that has me
Mhm.
most twisted up and yeah, like, because it is that one where you're already in the one bucket, but at the same time, you're looking for the other bucket.
Mhm.
Uh, that being said, we've got some great organizations in our town that are doing good work. And again, this is going to be council's discretion. Just because you apply for a grant and aid does not mean you're necessarily going to get a grant and aid. So having a cap on it, I feel like is going to handcuff this and future councils when it comes to opportunities. I often feel like the Scrooge McDuck of this council, but I mean, even I'm, really wrestling with this one, and I don't think there should be a cap, though it should be, noted as a consideration when we are receiving a grant and aid from, say, the golf course or the Legion or whoever else may be receiving a permissive tax exemption already.
Thank you, Councilor Romero. Councilor Fossin.
Yes, I don't like it though, because I need $5,000 for new tires. No,
$5,000 for
um,
tires.
$1,000 a piece, and then, a little extra. But, my thought, I agree with you, Councilor Raymire. It should be, there's no guarantee that they should receive the, grant and aid. But I don't know if we really should be limiting that, opportunity for them to apply. But then again, on the other hand, I look at, well, do they make profit? If they make profit locally, then, does the golf course really make profit? No. Legion, yeah, maybe, right? Churches on the other hand, most likely not. They do a lot of social work within the community, but I do like the idea of letting council have the discretion. But I too wrestled with it, so.
Thank you, Councilor Fossin. Councilor Pickard. I'll go last this time, so.
Thank you. Yeah, this one's tricky, and I think all these bullet points, we're kind of trying to give the most flexibility for council to look at different situations and circumstances and extenuating circumstances and have discretion. And at the permissive tax exemption, the council will know and it will be published. So I think having the grant and aid open if they want to apply and think there's an appropriate need or an event or something, and having it open for council to decide, I think is the best way forward.
Yeah, I concur with all of you. I think I'm invested and I trust the judgment of sitting councils, and I don't want to restrict them. I want to give them the discretion to make a wise decision. And, something might be really, really critical and makes a lot of sense, but then if we restrict it here in this process, they won't have the ability to do it. So I don't want to do that. I just trust the judgment. If there's something that they're uncomfortable with, they won't support it, because everything has to be received unanimous support. So, yeah, I'll put my faith in the council and give them that breadth of discretion. That's where my faith is.
Council, just as a consideration, putting a cap on it, that it's not necessarily handcuffing the council necessarily. It's also a communication piece, because if people know about it in advance, it's a lot easier for people to deal with. This is not to change council's decision. Just remember the other important thing is when we set these rules, it's so that the people who are applying are fully aware of them all.
Yeah, this one just says if the group or organization receives a permissive tax exemption, should they be eligible for additional grants and aid? And I think what the disposition of the council is that even if they are receiving what, as Councilwoman referred to, money in one bucket through the permissive tax exemption, they can still be eligible. They can still make a grant and aid application. So is that process there? It doesn't, I don't think we.
Yeah, and I acknowledge that, your worship. I just was also wanting to point out part of what we're doing is also trying to set the rules so everybody understands them. So it's not necessarily leaving things wide open because that's why we have a policy and a procedure. But just not to lose focus. Sometimes we just want to make sure that the community knows what it is.
I think that's the next bullet, isn't it? Because what I have for the next bullet is should there be a maximum, what could be the maximum grant allowed? Range is seen from 500 to 10,000.
That one you've already addressed, your worship.
We've already dealt with that one, so that doesn't address that. If they receive permission, how it goes, but if they receive permissive tax exemption, would they be eligible for a grant with a lower amount? This seems to be a sub-bullet that they have in here. And it goes, if they receive permissive tax exemptions, would they be eligible for a grant with a lower maximum? If so, how much? So do you want to put a cap on that? I guess what you're referring to is that part of it then, okay.
Yeah, and that one is just if they're allowed, then are they entitled to maybe a lower threshold just because they're already getting some support from the community, from the council. So that's the only consideration there.
I understand what you're requesting council to deliberate on. Thank you, sir. Council, do you wish to put you've agreed that they can apply for permissive tax exemption, they can apply for grant and aid. Do you want to cap the amount of grant and aid that they're going to be able to apply for? Because currently the cap is up to 5,000 and with no restrictions. Councillor Fawson.
Thank you to the chair. I too agree, though, that it should be up to the discretion of the council at the time.
That's my sentiment too. It hasn't changed, but I'd still want to, the administrators wanting clarity there. So, because he has to administrate what we decide. That's how I feel about it. Councilor Raymar, Councilor Pickard. Okay. Is that clear, sir? Thank you. The grant and aid includes 5,000 for Gold. I think we already discussed that one. Is there something there that we need to look at there? I think we already.
I believe it's more because it's not really in the current policy. It's just the practice that we've been doing, just reaffirming the current practice where if another group, if a group doesn't come forward, we can still go with individuals working through our finance system to administer the program.
Okay.
For the Gold River Days.
I believe, I may misbe reading.
And the other
I think
aspect.
that we've already said that we support that.
And the other aspect, if it's an individual who's coming forward because no group, just suggesting that we would not require them to do an application or anything to do
They
the fund.
currently don't do that right now.
No, but say a group wanted to come forward to run Gold River Days, then they would have to put the application forward. So
And
that
they
would be the
And
discretion.
would they automatically get precedence over the group that isn't an organized group? Or would
That
be
is
the-
council's
would that be
discretion.
Discretion of council.
That
I
would be
just wanted
discretion
to
of council.
understand what the intention of this is. Are you saying that if somebody, an organized group comes forward and makes the application, they'd have to follow the process for the application, but council would still have discretion whether they would use the organized group, nonprofit group, or whatever the group is, or registered society, or the people that they have, that they want to use and then just finance it. That's discretion still be available?
It would be, and that's assuming more than one steps up. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking usually we don't have more than one stepping up. The past 2 years or 3 years, at least, it's been in more of an individual as opposed to a group. So they wouldn't really be able to effectively fill out the application on, how their organization is doing for funding and all that because they're not an organization. So it would actually hamstring their application because they don't have the information to competently fill it out. But Gold River Days is an important event for this community, and it's something we always want to see moving forward. And when we have somebody who's willing to step up, I just don't want to discourage them by saying, well, our policy says that council's adopted that you must do this. So that's kind of what I'm trying to shoehorn into the policy, that there's a little bit of discretion if it's just an individual for this event, Gold River Days event only.
Councillor Pickard.
Thanks, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree that if it's an individual, a lot of that grant and aid stuff, the banking and all that history doesn't really make any sense. So I think it's a good special clause for a unique situation. And if we, so say for Gold River Days last year was individuals, do they still have and we administer the funds through the village, do they still have a final report due at the end of the year?
We did request them to come and just present to council, but unfortunately they were traveling and that didn't occur. But we do ask if they could just come and update us.
That's good to know, because yeah, I've had a few residents say like, hey, do you guys ever get a report or see where that's all spent? So that's good to know. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. Councillor Fossin.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, when I was looking at this too, I really thought of accountability, whether it's an organization or an individual
Yes.
that's stepping up to run or participate in Gold River Days with funding that we as council are setting aside for them. So the fact that they were willing to give a report but were traveling doesn't excuse, they could still hand in a paper report to show the allocation of how the amount of funds that were given versus what may have been left over, or that I just look at the accountability aspect of it.
Mr. Roy.
Just so you're aware, when it's an individual, all the finances run through us, so they'll present us with the invoices to process, or they'll bring us all the information and the copies of the invoices and stuff. And once we have all that, then we will do a check. The individual had a company that they're able to system, and they actually fronted them the money up front. But again, we could have worked it through our system without having to do it that way. They just chose to do it that way at the time. But we do all that in-house to make sure everything's accountable before we issue any funds.
Follow up, Councillor Fossin.
Thank you. Just to follow up. So in that regard too, if we, so what my understanding would be, then they buy a cake, they come and they bring in the receipt and get refunded in a reasonable fashion. That's what my understanding would be then, is that, or if they didn't have the funds to buy the 20-foot cake, they could come and say, this is the cost with the projected cost from the supplier, and say, could this be provided?
CEO Roy.
That's correct. Or we'll reach out to the company and say, make arrangements for the payment directly. We do that with the bouncy castles.
Thank you. I assume that. Clarification. Thank you.
Is that satisfactory? Councillor Fossin, you're good? Councillor Waymar, did you have your hand half up, or do you want to do a half a question?
I'll try and remember what I had to say. No, we've got a couple of angels in our community, Linda and Kathy,
Yeah.
Gold River Days wouldn't really exist without them, and some sub angels who are helping them out along the way. So thank you so much to them, and I don't want to see anything in here that's going to make life harder for them when they're volunteering their time to put on a great event for our community. So yeah, absolutely. I think the wording as it is here in the bullet point and number 13 are, perfectly fine. And yeah, I believe, the one side concern would be accountability, but that has definitely been covered here. We are accountable to everybody, and they're accountable for the money they're spending, and it sounds like everything is completely under control, so I don't see why we would play with that at all.
Thank you, Councillor Waymar. Councillor Fossin.
Sorry, I question just popped into my mind, and I realize we're talking about Gold River Days, but going back to example, when Canada had the 150th celebration here in Gold River, mother-in-law organized that. And I don't know if she applied for a grant and aid for things. I know she worked with Mr. Mann to have that organized. Well, I'm pretty sure Gold River will be here for the 200th. And we may not be the council, of course, that would be dealing with that at that time. But
I'm pretty sure that
all of a sudden it came up in my mind, oh wait, that was an individual applying for, and they couldn't apply for a grant and aid if we had changed so maybe I just answered my own question. So thank you.
Councillor Pickard.
Thank you, through the chair. And for the administrators, when we do the $10,000 budget, is that just cash grant and aids? And then the in-kind kind of equipment and stuff is extra on top of that, or?
No, that's
Included.
both. That's
Okay.
cash or in kind.
Okay, in-kind too. Okay. And I guess a kind of a separate question, but so this year, I think that a branch or committee or subcommittee of the chamber is gonna step up and do Gold River Days? Do we know that? And then if they do, that's a group that would do the kind of group application process?
I haven't heard for sure if they're doing it, but if the chamber is coming forward, then they would be doing an application to.
Okay. Right.
Any further discussion? Is there any other bullets or any other things that you want us to consider there, CAO Roy? I think I've ran out of bullets.
No, your worship, those were the main points that I thought would be helpful in the crafting of this policy or update to the policy. And I appreciate council's discussion for us to be able to do this effectively. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Councillors, is there any final questions you want to direct to CAO before we call for the question? Councillor Pickard?
Thank you, through the chair. And then I guess just kind of more on our transparency and accountability, do we want to look at how we assess the granted aids and have kind of a policy for that, or any criteria, or like new groups or older groups, and just ways that we'd assess it, or no, just as a discussion piece?
Currently have a grant and aid policy for determining that. CAO Roy?
No, there's no scoring metrics for the applications. I think that's where having the deadline comes into play. If all the requests are within the budget, then council's really it's really whether they want to support it or not. If it goes beyond that, I think you're back to probably the big theme there is council's discretion.
Just for clarification, are you looking for some sort of grading system, like that every report, that every application comes in, you grade it and you number it and you base it on that criteria, or is that what you're thinking? Or are you thinking that I'm not quite sure what you're looking for.
Yeah, thank you. Just a discussion if we want to, while we're sitting here, just look at any kind of criteria that we assess the applications with, or we just wait and see what comes there, what the budget is, what the ask is, and see if we can match it and have a discussion at the time.
Again, I think it just goes back to discretion question. I'd be quite comfortable with the judgment of the council. I said, I don't think I want to get into it. The only other thing I could see is getting into a grading system. I've seen a grading system before, and it's pretty sterile. I guess they just don't trust council's judgment at that point. So you have some sort of numerical system. Every single thing has a number, and then you add it up at the end, and that's how you determine who gets the money. And I can see that in some situations being relevant, because there's probably in a lot of communities, a lot of competition, for a little bit of money. So everybody's fighting for it. So that it's easier for council to have a numerical system where you can say it's, impartial. But I'm comfortable with council's judgment on $5,000 grants and aid. Councilor Weimer.
More of a general comment. I think it was a couple of years ago that this was brought up, and it got a lot deeper once the CAO started trying to draft the new, I guess, grant and aid form. I believe it all started with, can we update the form to make it easier? And you scratch the surface and it's like, oh, we got to dig a lot further. So perhaps a question to the CAO. I'm trying to remember why I brought this forward a couple of years ago. Like is quite the extensive form, but this is going to make life a lot easier for you in the future. And
Yes, based on the input that we have here, when it comes back to council for adoption, I will come back with an updated form. I just didn't do the form part because I wanted to get some answers on the questions before actually drafting up the finalized form. So that will still be coming as part of the package.
Great.
Was the verbiage part.
That help, Councilor Pickard?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Anything else? Well, it took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take, but I think we covered it very well. I'm ready to call for the question. Everybody good? Call for the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Information items, there's no information items I'm aware of. Motion to adjourn in camera. Okay, you said that we could adjourn in camera if there was a desire of council, however, we couldn't vote on anything?
Again, anything that comes out of here would have to go back to the regular council meeting for adoption of whatever comes forward out of the committee.
So it'd just be for discussion then?
Yes,
Pretty informal, just turn the mics off and have a chat.
and we would end the recording.
Would it be recorded? You would retain that information?
If you're going in camera, we would discontinue the recording.
Okay. Councilor Pickard, what's your pleasure? You want to wait until next Monday? You want to go on camera right now? Okay, motion for council to go on camera. Who cares to move? Councilor Pickard, move it. Seconded by Councilor Lawson. We are on camera. Do you want to turn